In the 1990s, archaeologists discovered a structure in the foothills of eastern Turkey that left them completely gobsmacked. The structure was so grand, but yet so unbelievably old that it defied any explanation. The site, known as Göbekli Tepe, remains shrouded in mystery to this day, with some believing that it is evidence of a lost advanced human civilization, while conspiracy theorists even go as far as to suggest that it was the place where extraterrestrials first contacted humans. We separate the fact from fiction and delve into the secrets of Göbekli Tepe in this episode of Stranger Than Fiction. In southeastern Anatolia region of Turkey, not far off the border with Syria, lies what is arguably the most perplexing and significant discovery in the history of archaeology. In 1994, archaeologist Klaus Schmidt and his team excavated the site of Göbekli Tepe, and the findings shocked the world, completely flying in the face of everything we knew about early humans and the history of our species. The site consists of 20 circles of tall T-shaped rock pillars, with some of these megaliths standing up to 18 feet tall and weighing as much as 45 metric tons. The pillars boast breathtaking carvings of foxes, bulls, boars, reptiles, scorpions, vultures, and other utterly bizarre creatures. Quite astonishingly, when this site was dated, it was discovered to be a whopping 12,000 years old, or possibly even older. That means that this humongous and awe-inspiring place was built by hunter-gatherer tribes who had not yet developed metal tools or even pottery, and mostly lived in bands of no more than 100 people. Göbekli Tepe's sheer age is hard to fathom, with the site being more than twice as old as the Stonehenge, which was previously thought to be one of the world's oldest megalithic structures. In other words, the construction of Stonehenge is much closer to the current year than it is to the construction of Göbekli Tepe, which was built a whopping 7,000 years before Stonehenge and 8,000 years before the pyramids of Giza. In fact, our planet looked very, very different when Göbekli Tepe was being constructed, with Earth still emerging out of its last ice age at the time. Vast ice sheets covered much of the northern hemisphere, while woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers roamed Eurasia and the Americas. The discovery of Göbekli Tepe flies in the face of everything that archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians thought they knew about early humans. You see, the conventional wisdom in these fields until recently was that complex structures could not be built by hunter-gatherers. This was because hunter-gatherer tribes had to concentrate most of their daily efforts on hunting and foraging for food, which did not leave much room for the development of culture. Only after the advent of agriculture did humans have a surplus of food, thus enabling large settlements, leading to specialization within population groups, and freeing up people to be architects, engineers, astronomers, or shamans. However, Göbekli Tepe disproves this thesis, as the site was built thousands of years before the practice of agriculture became widespread. And yet, the people who built it were undoubtedly specialists. It took an unbelievable amount of foresight, coordination, and skill to move such large limestone megaliths hundreds of meters, to cut them into the right shape, and to make detailed inscriptions on these rocks. Quite staggeringly, this was done by prehistoric masons armed with basic flint tools, without the help of metal chisels or hammers. This would have required hundreds of workers, all needing to be fed and housed for many tens, if not hundreds of years. How coordination on this scale was possible in the pre-pottery Neolithic period remains a mystery. We do not know who these people were, how they managed to build this site, or why they did it. But we do know one more shocking detail that further adds to the mystery. We know that around 8000 BC, the creators of Göbekli Tepe buried their great structures under a huge amount of rubble. For some strange reason, it seems like these people did not want this awe-inspiring site to be discovered by anyone. There is another even more bizarre finding about this site. We now have evidence that the Neolithic engineers who built this great monument actually got worse instead of better through the centuries. According to some archaeologists, the greatest and most artistic megaliths at Göbekli Tepe are the oldest ones. As you come up through the later layers, the skill behind them gets lesser and lesser, and no one can explain why this happened. So, what do we actually know about this mysterious site? Well, we know that this is not a place where people actually lived. Archaeologists have found none of the telltale signs of a settlement. No cooking hearths, houses, or trash pits. They have only found evidence of tool use, including stone hammers and blades. In addition, a humongous number of bones have also been discovered in the site, mostly belonging to animals such as gazelles and aurochs, which seem to indicate that great feasts or sacrifices may have taken place here 12,000 years ago. Many have concluded that this was an ancient temple of some sort. Perhaps even the world's first human-built religious site. It is postulated that Göbekli Tepe might have been a place where tribes from across the Fertile Crescent gathered to conduct ancient rituals, perhaps to pray to the animal figures carved expertly into the humongous stone pillars. However, not everyone is convinced that this was a site of worship. Some theorize that Göbekli Tepe's purpose was actually astronomical. Analysis shows that the placement of the pillars and other structures at the site aligns with the rising of the star, Sirius, in the sky, which suggests that this might have been the world's first astronomical observatory. Others even think that some of the animal carvings on the pillars at Göbekli Tepe represent the various constellations visible in the night sky, with one pillar even potentially recording an ancient comet impact. According to some scientists and researchers, fragments of an asteroid or a comet struck Earth around 12,800 years ago, causing extreme cooling and other major environmental changes over the next 1,200 years, ushering in the period known as the Younger Dryas. It has been theorized that Pillar 43 at Göbekli Tepe commemorates this devastating event, depicting the comet crashing into the Earth and the possible loss of life. The animals carved in the pillar could represent constellations visible when the comet hit, while the headless human figure alongside them could signify the devastation caused. So, were parts of this monument built to signify a forgotten global cataclysm? We don't know, but the archaeological excavation team have rejected the idea that the site has anything to do with astronomy. What is undeniable is that this was indeed one of the most important sites in the story of mankind. How do we know this? Because, quite fascinatingly, we see the first evidence of agriculture in the exact same part of Turkey around 1,000 years after the construction of Göbekli Tepe, which is undoubtedly not a coincidence. As is always the case with unexplained and mysterious findings such as these, some outlandish theories have been put forward by various people regarding Göbekli Tepe and what it represents. The British author Graham Hancock, who is famous for his theories of hypothetical lost lands and civilizations, believes that Göbekli Tepe is the smoking gun that proves that there indeed was a prehistoric advanced civilization. Hancock questions how a group of hunter-gatherers in Turkey suddenly woke up one morning and knew how to cut and quarry stone, move 50-ton megaliths, build something with a perfect north-south alignment, and create a vast labor force in an area with no water. Hancock also points to the rise of agriculture around that time in the region as clear evidence of a technology transfer. He postulates that survivors of a lost advanced civilization who already knew how to build megaliths and do agriculture, settled among the hunter-gatherers in the Fertile Crescent and began a project to restart their civilization, using Göbekli Tepe as ground zero. Some conspiracy theorists go even further and suggest that the technology was not transferred to hunter-gatherers by surviving members of a lost civilization, but rather by aliens, alleging an extraterrestrial hand in the building of Göbekli Tepe. However, these sorts of conspiratorial ideas have little grounding in evidence, with many archaeologists and anthropologists pointing out that it diminishes the agency and ability of our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Perhaps we underestimated hunter-gatherer tribes all along, and they are indeed capable of building something so magnificent. Klaus Schmidt, the lead archaeologist who discovered the site, believes that Göbekli Tepe will end up changing the conventional wisdom on what gave rise to civilizations. Scholars have long believed that only after people learned to farm and live in settled communities did they have the time, organization, and resources to construct temples and support complicated social structures. But Schmidt argues it was the other way around. The extensive, coordinated effort to build the monoliths actually laid the groundwork for the development of complex societies, necessitating the need for large-scale agriculture. If that is true, Göbekli Tepe might be the birthplace of all the world's civilizations. The truth is that we simply do not know a lot about this site, and we are only starting to unravel its secrets. In fact, using ground-penetrating radar and geomagnetic surveys, we know that the site is even more humongous than it seems, buried across a whopping 22 acres. That means that most of the structure remains underground, still waiting to be excavated. We will thus continue learning more and more about Göbekli Tepe over the coming years and decades, as we try to piece together a blurry picture of the extraordinary lives lived by the people who called this region home many thousands of years ago, and the kind of rituals and practices that went on in this astounding place. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and if you want to learn more about such unique places and phenomena, subscribe to the channel. We will continue bringing you stories and ideas that blow your mind, as the truth, as they say, is stranger than fiction.